Kia ora, good evening. Parts of the south have been buffeted by winds today, bringing down trees and blowing debris onto some roads. People are asked to take care travelling on southern roads, with high winds and rain making conditions difficult. Several southern roads have been closed due to weather, including Taramoa West Plains Road, the Ojai Clifton Highway between Twinlaw Road and Scotts Gap and Feldwick Road, and Walker Road in Woodlands between Waihopai Downs and Fleming Road. Moores Road Reserve in Winton has been closed because of the amount of fallen trees and debris on tracks. Severe gales of up to 120 kilometres per hour around coastal Southland and Stewart Island are expected to ease tonight. Queenstown has recorded its highest ever guest nights for a 12-month period, with annual guest nights approaching 3 million.
For the year ended June 2014, total Queenstown guest nights were up 9.8% over the previous year to 2,908,025. Total guest nights for the month of June 2014 were up almost 4.4% to 175,901, building on the previous record for a June month last year, which had 17.7% growth on June 2012. Looking at results for the autumn quarter of April-June 2014, Queenstown had a total of 596,068 guest nights, an increase of 13.4% over the same period last year. Destination Queenstown Chief Executive Graham Budd says the growth in June was a pleasing way to kick off winter, and it was very satisfying to set a new record for year-end guest nights.
Dairy conversions are being blamed for the drop in sheep numbers, down almost 1 million on last year. The South Island saw the biggest decrease, where sheep numbers dropped by 600,000 compared to 360,000 in the north. Land use changes in Southland, like dairy conversions and dairy support activities such as grazing, continue to contribute to the decline in sheep farming. Meanwhile, beef cattle numbers have risen for the first time since 2006, increasing by 1.6% to 3.76 million. When Invercargill's domestic airport terminal was built in 1964, annual passenger numbers totalled 44,000. Last year, passenger numbers soared to over 270,000. By Christmas next year, travellers will pass through a modern terminal, with stage 1 of a $13 million upgrade now underway. The baggage reclaim area has been demolished, parking has been adjusted along with pedestrian access, and travellers are being asked to be patient.
Here we have a lot of nooks and crannies and little rabbit warrens, and space is not really effective, whereas the new building, it's just under 3,000 square metres, and it's a really open plan, kind of longer building, one level. You can see from one end to the other, so it's a lot of space to be used there, so it'll be great.
What logistical challenges have you come up against already in this project?
Yeah, there have been a few so far, and there will be more to come, and pretty much one of the major things that kind of dictated where we built this building actually was how we would do the staging of it. So we needed to keep this building operational and be able to have people move through the building without too many problems, and then also build right next door to it. So that's the main thing, and also making sure that traffic flows and pedestrians can walk, safely across roading and all those kind of things. So what we had done in 2011 was quite a comprehensive public survey, and we got a lot of negative feedback about the building, the state it was in, and just the disappointment and kind of a little bit of embarrassment came through there. And I guess that translates from their visitors coming and giving them some feedback.
Will the changeover or the project as it evolves have any effect on operation at all?
No, it shouldn't do. I mean, there is going to be some, a little bit of confusion for the travelling public, I think, probably just coming into car parking. And as we change our car parking layout, because obviously we will have to because of the front of the building is going to be so different, then, people are just going to have to be aware that when they come into the building or into the airport surrounds, just to make sure that they do slow down, watch for signage, and just be careful of pedestrians, because pedestrian crossings have now changed. What I would tell people is take a look at our construction cam. We have that on our website, which is www.invercargillairport.co.nz. We've got parking maps there. We have it just tells you all about what's happening. We have regular updates, so we'll post if there's any changes, any check-in changes, any departure changes, that kind of thing. So just keep an eye on that and have a look at our construction cam from time to time. That'll keep you up to date.
Trials of remote control technology in tree felling are showing promising results in an industry plagued with injury and loss of life. During the trial, an operator was able to successfully fell and bunch several trees from a safe distance at the top of a steep slope using a remote control device. The application of remote control technology to tree felling is believed to be a world first. The tree harvester uses a computer-controlled hydraulic winch system that helps with traction and mobility and allows the machine to operate safely on steep slopes. 4 machines have been built and are now in commercial operation, with the 5th under construction. Using hand sanitisers to reduce the spread of germs has been common practice for a number of years now, but a new survey has revealed they may not be as effective as once thought. The University of Otago has released findings of a cluster randomised trial from 2009 that involved 2,500 pupils from 68 schools in Invercargill, Dunedin and Christchurch. Students aged 5 to 11 involved in the trial were given a half-hour hygiene lesson prior to the trial. Student absences in the control group were tracked by type and length of illness. The study found the use of hand sanitiser appears to have no effect on the number of sick days taken by pupils. Stay with us after the break. Leader of the Democrats for Social Credit and candidate for the seat of Invercargill, Stephanie de Ruyter. Welcome back. Now for the latest in our series of interviews profiling candidates for the seat of Invercargill. Tonight, Democrats for Social Credit leader Stephanie de Ruyter. She's not only leading her party from Invercargill, she's also hoping to win the seat. Hunter Andrews asked her about her party's key economic platform and her approach to the campaign in Invercargill.
The Reserve Bank is New Zealand's central bank. It is our bank. It's publicly owned, one of the few central banks in the world which is still publicly owned. They already produce 3% of our money supply. They manufacture 3% of our money supply. We call them notes and coins. All we're saying is, if they're already doing 3%, what could we do if they started producing 30% of our money supply? In the same way that the foreign banks already do that. We might be able to get rid of GST. We could certainly have some pretty good programs to guarantee income security and improve living conditions and wages and address poverty that way. If it was 50%, what could we do? Better still, if it was all of our money supply, what could we do? The possibilities are endless.
We all of us around my age, certainly around the 40 age group, will remember social credit, Bruce Beetham, of course, and there were 2 seats held in the early 80s, 21% of the vote, I think, in 1981, which would have been a significant force. Social credit would be a significant force if MMP had been in place then. 5.7% in 1987 of the vote, I think, and 0.07 last election. Are people losing that social credit message?
The party found itself in a rather difficult position coming out of our association with our alliance colleagues, and it's taken a long time for us to rebuild our foundations. Internationally, there is a movement towards monetary reform, a growing movement. You would see it in that 99%, the Occupy movement. One of our policies is financial transactions tax to replace a GST. That's been our policy since the 1980s. It's been introduced into France and Italy. Software designers in New York have now produced some banking software so it can be rolled out across the European Union. It's a fair tax at 0.01%. New Zealand is already the 9th most commonly traded currency in the world, and a tiny cut of that action instead of GST would allow us to do all the things that you do with the GST money without charging people 15% on their rates, for example, or 15% on their food, or in fact 15% on anything, because we would just get rid of GST completely. So social credit as a phrase, I guess, is a bit is unknown in a certain age group. It effectively means the people's money. And so what we want to do is reclaim our destiny as a country and make sure that we truly have sovereignty in New Zealand, and we can do it here. We're a small island nation. We have a mixed economy on a fairly small scale internationally. We can actually be independent, and do our own thing and in our own way without upsetting any of the major players.
What are you hoping for at this election? How many candidates have you got, and at the end of the day, what sort of numbers would you like as far as party vote goes? Let's get to Invercargill shortly, but party vote.
I would like to see a significant improvement in our party vote. If you're a party outside Parliament, it's pretty hard going. You don't get the exposure. So we've got 30 very good electorate candidates and 4 list-only candidates who are working very hard on the hustings to raise the profile of the party and what we stand for in pursuit of economic and social justice and environmental justice too. When I say significantly increase, I mean, we actually need to be looking at 1 or 2% anyway, so that we've got a platform for next time. That's harder than it sounds, but that's certainly what we would be striving for.
Invercargill, how active are you going to be here? You're the leader of the party, and I assume you'll be getting around. We saw you at the Vegan Society's meeting the other night. Are we going to see a bit of you around the campaign? Is there time for door knocking within the electorate itself?
Yes, there is. My intention is to be door knocking at weekends, weather permitting. I'm mindful that people don't want to open the door and receive a leaflet by hand if the weather is sub-zero and there are gale force winds. And frankly, I'm not sure that I'm that keen on doing that sort of work in that weather myself. Yes, I do have a problem though. As leader of the party, it's really important that I'm around the country supporting my candidates, and so I do have to balance, this time I have to balance out my nationwide obligations with my electoral obligations here. Having said that, I've got a great team. I've got some fantastic supporters locally, and they will work really hard for me, for the party, in the Invercargill electorate, and that includes representing me at meetings if I have an obligation or a commitment somewhere else. It's fantastic that we have so many meetings to go to this time. It's not always like that, and that gives me hope that people actually are taking an interest again in the democratic process, and that's essential. So I'm delighted on the one hand that we have so many meetings, and utterly devastated that I didn't anticipate that and had already committed to meetings out of town on some occasions. So I'll come to as many meetings as I can get to here.
And that's all from us. Next on Sport, part 2 of our interview with new Southland football manager John McClelland. From the news team, good night.